Hello, this is John Kofer. Today we're going to go over how to complete addition and summing processes in Microsoft Access SQL. And in addition to this, what we're going to do is we're going to show the mathematical process behind it. That way it can be easier for you to understand from your previous mathematical knowledge. You will also learn a bit about matrices and how they relate to this. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and bring up my screen here with our Microsoft Access interface. So what you're going to have to do here in order to sum in Microsoft Access, we're going to start off with the programming and then we'll move on to the math. So what you're going to want to do is, let's say we want to sum this second column. Going to click Create an SQL query. And then we need to type the following in. We need to say select A, because it's the name of our table. And then, hold on. It's going to be select sum, because we're trying to get the sum of the table, of the second column. And we're going to say A dot A2. So that's our table, A, and then the column, A2. And then our next line is going to say from A. So the reason why we have to state the table name twice is the first time it makes sure that there's no other columns from other tables that might have the same name. And then the second time we just have A right here from A to specify that we're selecting it from this table. Or that we're performing the operation primarily from this table. There can also be um, other processes, which we'll go over in future videos. So there can be exceptions to these rules that I mentioned. We'll go over those in future videos. Now, what you need to do here, go ahead and click Control Save, and we'll go ahead and save this as our query. And let's see what our query gets us. All right, it gets us our answer 16. So 5 plus 3 plus 8 gets you 16. So let's go back to the SQL view. Remember, this is datasheet view, and then this is SQL view. So our SQL view, yep, shows the formatting right here. And then this is going to get us our answer. Now, we didn't specify columns, so it's going to say EXPR 1000. Let's go ahead and move on to our next part, which is going to involve working with the mathematics behind this process. We'll do both the front end and back end mathematics. All right. So we're going to complete, just as a reminder, we're going to complete this process right here. Okay. We need to find the sum of the second column. So we'll get started off with the front end work and mathematical operations, and then we'll move on to the back end coding, back end code that involves, instead of decimal numbers as shown right here, we're going to involve the actual binary code that Access uses. So let's go ahead and take a look here. We have our math on the left-hand side and the logic behind the SQL query on the right-hand side. Let's take a look at the math. So we have our first step, which is going to involve multiplying the matrix shown right here times matrix A. So this is a column matrix because it's only one column. As a result, you're going to want to keep that in mind. And then you're also going to want to know how this column matrix works. So essentially what it's doing is it's multiplying, it's going to get us the second matrix, the second column. The way it does that is you have 0, 1, and 0. So the 0 right here is going to multiply times this 2 right here. The 1 is going to multiply times the 5. And the 0 is going to multiply times the 7 right here. So it's getting rid of these two. Okay. And remember, once you multiply it by 0, it's gone. So it's canceled out. So as a result, we're going to get our 5, 3, and 8. And we are going to get the sum. Remember, M is going to be the amount of rows. So we're starting from where I equals 1 to where I equals M. So the first row all the way to the last row. And we are looking at the second column indicated by the 2 right here. Remember, this is supposed to be I, J. 2 is replacing the J. And then the amount of columns, as a reminder, is going to be N. So N right here. All right, this is the nth column. Let's go ahead and finish this up right here. So 5 plus 3 plus 8 is going to equal 16, as indicated with our matrix up here. So your answer is 16. You do the exact same on as with the SQL query, except it's going to be as a table, as we saw earlier. And keep in mind that our select step right here, select from A, or select sum of A times A plus 2 plus from A is going to be pretty similar. The only difference is this sum part right here is going to be like shown here. The select from A is going to be basically all of this part. Okay, so you get 16 as your answer. Let's move on to the backend explanation of this. The backend explanation is going to involve Microsoft Access's signed backend binary coding for both initial and ending matrices. We also need to include the backend binary logic for our work here. So let me go ahead and show you how to do that. We have the same table or the same matrix, and we're going to show one example of how it's converted from decimal to binary code. Okay, so we have decimal code 2, and then the -1 is taken to the power of 0 right here. So it's going to get you, so this is very important because this -1 is representing the signed code's first 0. The first 0, or the first digit, is going to represent whether or not it's a negative or a positive. So it's a 1, that is going to be a negative. If it's a 0, it's going to be a positive. That's by default. Then we have 2 to the 30. So that's going to be 0, 0 right here, which coordinates with the 0 here. And it's times the 2 to the 30. Okay. So it's going to get us 0. So essentially what you get here is just 0 plus itself a bunch of times. And then that's going to apply for all the way through here till we get to the 1. The 1 is going to be just 1 times 2 to the 1. So 1 times 2 to the 1. So 1 times 2 is 2. Then we have 0 times 2 to the 0. So 0 times 2 to the 0. And that gets us 0. So 0 plus a bunch of zeros right here. And then a bunch of zeros being added right here. And then you have 2 plus 0. So that's going to get you 2. All right. So that proves why this is what you get for your answer. I should also mention that 32-bit signed code is being used because we're using the log integer, which is the default for most integers in Microsoft Access. So that's why it's 32-bit signed code for this. Let's go ahead and continue. So we're now trying to get that, we're trying to get only one column. So this is representing our select, okay? And let's write anything that would be in code in this special color actually to make it, we'll do green. So this is select, okay? And basically this is going to be, this is just translated over from our matrix we had earlier, where it's 0, 1, 0. And we're just putting that as um, a table. Okay. So we're only choosing one of these. And let me actually bring up what SQL functions being performed in the background without your input. So essentially, these two tables are getting multiplied together. Okay. And then they're being set as excuse me, the new data sheet that's pulled from the query, which is AI2. All right. And then this is just written out for you. And now we have this selected. So now the selected answer is going to be shown right here. So it's the exact same process as shown earlier. It's 0, 1, 0. So 0 times this, 1 times this, 0 times this. Okay. And then we repeat the same process for each row. And we're going to get our second row, just like that. All right. And then now we just have our sum left over. So our sum, that's our sum function that's being shown right here. And yeah, we're using this binary addition work right here. For binary addition, remember it's one, if it's one being added to one, then it's going to get you a zero here and you carry a one. And then if you have a one being added to a zero, then it's going to get you a one here. Nothing's going to be carried over. And then zero plus zero, 0 plus 0 is going to get you 0. So that's how that works. And then you have to convert this back to a decimal. So let's show the work for that. The work for converting it back to a decimal is simply 2 squared. Well, let's show our initial part, which is going to be confirming that this signed binary code isn't going to get us anything negative, which it's not. So it's going to be -1 to the 0, and then it's going to be times 0 to the power of 30. Yeah, 30. 0 to the power of 30 plus dot 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 till we get to the 1 right here. So that's going to be 2 to the power of 4. And that's times 1. I need to be consistent in my writing here. Yeah, it's going to be 1 times that. 0 times 2 to the 3 plus 0 times 2 to the 2 plus 0 times 2 to the 1. And then we're almost done. Plus 0 times 2 to the 0. All right. And then now we have 1 times 0 plus dot 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 plus we'll just say 2 to the 4. And then all of this will be canceled off because it's all zeros. And then is going to get us 1 times 2 to the 4, which is 16. So then it's going to get you an answer of 16. And then just for reference, I did also include our SQL query right here. All right. So that's a summary of how addition works in Microsoft SQL, and specifically the math behind how that works. I should say the sum function, not addition. So that is going to be it for today's session. And I hope to see you in another video where we will go over subtraction in Microsoft SQL, Microsoft Access SQL. And we'll also go over some multiplication and division because that's the plan behind this entire guide. All the series will be kept in this guide right here that I'm making. So that will be a lot of fun. Have a great day.